Scattered across this strange place are a handful of ordinary people, strangers to one another, each one confused, disoriented, and trying to understand where they are. A middle-aged businessman still clutches a briefcase he no longer seems to remember carrying. An elderly woman in church clothes looks around with cautious hope. A young man in a wrinkled t-shirt stares into the mist, stunned and silent. A nurse with tired eyes keeps asking if anyone is hurt. A teenage girl that she wants to go home. Some accept it immediately. Others resist. One man insists this is a dream. Another says it must be a hallucination caused by trauma. The older woman folds her hands and says softly that she always knew there would be something after. The young man in the t-shirt says nothing at all. He only watches the empty distance with the numb expression of someone who has run out of explanations. None of them knows how they arrived here. None of them can remember the exact moment before this one, but slowly, through bits of dialogue and frightened realization, the truth begins to settle over them. They are dead. Then, without warning, a voice speaks. It does not thunder. It does not echo. It is simply there, calm, clear, and impossible to disobey. Please proceed. Ahead of them, where there had been only mist, a doorway now stands alone. No wall, no building, just a tall, dark frame containing a warm and unfamiliar light. No one wants to be first, but one by one they begin to move. What follows is a montage of interviews in an environment even stranger than the world outside. Each person now sits alone across from a mysterious figure in a room that seems to shape itself around them. For one person it resembles an office. For another, a chapel-like chamber. For another, an empty room with no corners at all. The interviewer appears almost human, but not entirely. The being is calm, expressionless, patient, dressed simply, speaking gently, as though performing a duty repeated beyond counting. And to each person, the same question is asked. Based on your experience, your lifetime as a human being, what do you believe is going to happen in the afterlife? The answers come hesitantly at first. The elderly woman smiles through tears and says she believes she is going to heaven. She says she tried to live a decent life. She says she believes there will be peace, reunion, forgiveness, and the presence of God. The interviewer listens, then gives a slight nod. A frightened young man says he believes in hell. He says he knows the things he did. He says he felt it coming long before he died. He trembles as he speaks, as if merely naming it makes it more real. Again, the interviewer listens. A soft-spoken woman says she believes in reincarnation. She talks about lessons, unfinished journeys, the soul returning in different forms until it learns what it needs to learn. A former soldier says he always imagined some kind of spirit world, not clouds and harps, but a place where the dead continue in another layer of existence, watching the living, remembering who they were. The nurse says she never had time to decide what she believed. She spent her life watching people die, and every single one of them looked surprised. She says maybe all religions are fragments of a truth too large to understand. And then there is the young man in the wrinkled t-shirt. When his turn comes, the room around him is almost completely blank. No furniture but the chair, no decoration, no warmth, just a pale emptiness. The interviewer asks the question. Based on your experience, your lifetime as a human being, what do you believe is going to happen in the afterlife? The young man shrugs at first, then laughs nervously. Nothing, he says. The interviewer waits. The man leans back and grows more confident. He explains that he never believed in any of it. No heaven, no hell, no soul, no cosmic plan. Brains stop, life ends, lights out. That was always his view. To him, consciousness was only chemistry, and death was the permanent end of the illusion. Nothing, he repeats. That's the honest answer. The interviewer studies him with a look that is neither cruel nor kind. Only certain. Then the montage reaches its conclusion. To the woman who believed in heaven, the interviewer offers a gentle correction, not a denial, but a subtle refinement, as if her expectation was close, though not complete. He rises and says, "You may proceed." A bright light opens, and she steps forward with tearful relief. To the man expecting hell, the being explains that what awaits him is not exactly what he imagined, but near enough to satisfy the shape of his fear. You may proceed. To the woman who believed in reincarnation, the interviewer gives a faint, knowing smile. Not precisely, but close enough. You may proceed. To each of them, some variation of the same thing. A slight correction, a solemn blessing, and permission to move on into whatever reality their beliefs have prepared them to receive. And finally, the Tao young skeptic sits alone in his blank room. He waits for an explanation, a correction, a cosmic lecture, maybe even vindication. Instead, the interviewer simply folds his hands and says, "Nothing it is." For the first time, the young man looks afraid. He tries to speak, but his body is already beginning to fade. His hands lose their shape. His face breaks apart into drifting particles of pale dust. The room around him dims, and his expression becomes not terror exactly, but dawning comprehension, the horror of being answered. Within seconds, he is gone, not dead again, gone. The final image is of the empty chair. And the closing narration tells us that perhaps the oldest idea in human history is also the strangest. That belief is not merely a guess about reality, but a force that helps define it. That consciousness may be less like a passenger and more like an architect. that if reality is deeper, stranger, and more responsive than we dare imagine, then the final door may not open onto a universal destination, but onto the one each soul has spent a lifetime preparing to enter. In the atomic zone, the greatest mystery is not what comes next, but whether in the end we are the ones who choose it.